Hey, it is Eric, it is Jay. We are back from the Pitt Maneuver at Pitt Race just outside of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, very first thing I gotta say is the weather. Well, the weather was Midwestern to a T. You know, you never know, are you gonna get sleet, are you gonna get snow, are you gonna get sunshine, are you gonna get rain, are you gonna get hail, are you gonna get glorious, cool summer weather? We got them all. Every day, 3 days in a row, there was sunshine, there was snow, there was everything in between. Never seen anything like that. Great!
We rolled out a couple of Pittsburgh-themed penalties for this one. There was Donnie Iris karaoke. You remember Donnie Iris. And we also had a make your crappy theme into a pants in that ad penalty, which is a niche piece of Yinzer culture. It's hard to explain, you just have to be from there.
Which we aren't. We had a lot of other penalties as well. We had the famous yell at your driver with the bullhorn. We had one guy show up with a just send it on his helmet. Kind of writes itself. And we had an admittedly bad, ill-advised RC car demo derby. Tried to turn it into a slalom. Didn't end well.
Hella sweet was the potluck, the return of the potluck. It was a rousing success, hosted by Three Pedal Mafia, whose RX-7 won the race, by the way. That's hella sweet. And Brian Hurth smoked an entire pig just to feed the paddock. I don't even think he was racing or with a car or anything. One of the best potlucks we can remember. Really well done, everybody.
As you know, eBay is now the presenting sponsor, so we're talking about it a lot, and this time, two different teams decided to go to eBay, buy forced induction kits because that would make them dominate, and as a result, they did not dominate. Exorian Racing brought a Ford Probe with a .com boom theme. Boom turned out to be appropriate because they tried to turbocharge it. And not real professional racing, they brought a Mazda Protege, cool car by the way, making kind of a comeback in Lemons right now. They brought a Mazda Protege, they were smarter, they just tried to supercharge it. Also did not end well.
Now, the other aspect of eBay sponsorship is the Halloween Meets Gasoline trophy for the team with the most outstanding theme. That team gets a $1,000 cash prize and a trophy. There were a lot of great themes, and we're really glad to see this starting to take off. For example, Mazda Stopheles took their Miata, made it a Mirthmobile from Wayne's World with Wayne and Garth. Hella sweet.
Valtap Racing and their Cordoba did, of course, a Ricardo Montalban theme, complete with the whole Fantasy Island thing, so there's a little meeting of minds there.
Amanda Tully's Cheshire Cat BMW, still great. They did a whole Queen of Hearts crochet presentation during BS inspection. That was hella sweet.
Siso Motorsports, they brought a Honda Civic. This used to be a Bob Ross car. They turned it into a Rick Ross car, which, unbeknownst to us, includes lots of Wingstop stickers because apparently Rick owns a bunch of Wingstop franchises. I don't even think that's true. Doesn't matter. What is true is we got Rick Ross champagne as a bribe, so couldn't have been any better than that.
Nittany Lemons, we've seen these Penn State students, now graduates. They grow up so fast. And they finally repainted their Golf livery Grand Marquis, which, again, by the way, if you're going to do Golf on a car, Grand Marquis, totally good way to go about that. Every other car, don't do that. It is now a Super Troopers theme. They were wearing short shorts the whole weekend, even though it was 40 degrees, writing tickets to drivers as they came off track. That was great.
And the last HMG runner-up, they were so close, squatting dogs in tracksuits. They brought a Space Pants theme from the SNL skit.
Space Pants! Space Pants!
And they owned it. They were wearing the Space Pants. They were blasting the theme. They had their car done up. This is how you do it. They were so close, but the last runner-up.
Now, it wouldn't be a Lemons race without a whole bunch of crap blowing up, and we had a lot of it at this race. Legit Racing and their Ford Focus, they registered for the race about 3 days before it, and as you might guess, it blew up on Friday. They spent all of Friday in finger-numbing engine swap hell. Another car was also doing an engine swap on Friday, another Ford, I might add. It was the red, white, and overspray Ford Escort ZX2, kind of paralleling my experience at my first Lemons race. A little bit of flashback.
Also, but terrible, so blowy uppy, Dicky Speedmaster in their MR2 with the 1MZ swap.
No.
So they turned one of their main bearings into glitter after literally one lap. So let's just recount here. That's they got a one-lap engine. They got the engine that the Stellantis executive made burst into flame after 29 laps. That was their best performance. And 2 DNFs. So
Structural damage racing and their Toyota Celica, super but terrible. They had a 22 RE, which the internet will tell you is completely invincible. Judge Brett Sloman was there. He had raced one of these, and he asked them, "You guys have a spare?" And they said, "Yeah, we got this." And boy, did they need it. The rod left 2 fist-size holes in the engine as it exited, and of course this happened during the middle of the second snowstorm of the weekend, so they were miserable swapping this motor. They had to put the oil pan from the blown-up engine onto the new one. It didn't fit. They couldn't put the other engine in. They went home without getting any more laps. That sucked.
you know what I've never understood? How do you blow out both sides with a rod? How does that even work?
Magic.
On the plus side, there was a whole lot of hella sweets, even more than the butt terribles, starting with the Yikes Peak SQ Don't. I always love this car. It is a PT Cruiser done up like the Suzuki Pikes Peak, blah, blah. You've even seen it before, but you know what? This thing is now actually starting to run.
Also hella sweet, Cheap Thrills in their Cadillac STS. Looks exactly like an Uber Black pulling up to take you to the airport. Super clean, which is kind of their shtick, and it's great. They leave the interior in it, all of the warning lights are all over the dashboard, and guess what? It just kind of freaking runs.
Every time these guys show up, somebody complains like, that car is too nice. Why is that in Class C? Here's a little loophole, people. Bring a North Star Power Cadillac, you'll be in Class C. Like, we got no problem with that at all. You know what? North Stars, they're in more than a few cars.
Yeah, plenty of Cadillacs have North Stars in them, and they all have these weird 3-letter acronyms. You know, there's the STS, the ETC, the DTS, the ESC, the DTF, the ELR, the DSL, the ETS, the ESB, the ETA, the ESV, the ATC, the AT&T, the SRX, the OPP, the EXT, the AFR, the ATS, the AOL, the XKE, and the XLR. Does that sound right?
Just about like that, yeah.
We had all 3 of the original Saturn S-Series models, which is hella sweet. The Cream team from Rochester had a wagon that was done up like Genesee Brewing. 121 Racing had a mildly distressing toilet-themed Saturn Coupe. And Product Design has the world's most advanced S-Series race car, which is an SL sedan. And by most advanced, we mean finished 23rd.
I'll just say as an aside, we at the 24 Hours of Lemons very high on Saturns, so much so that Andy DiDeRossi, who does all kinds of stuff and is sometimes a judge for us, he even organized for one of the recent Lemons rallies a pro-Saturn protest, bring back Saturn, at the Ren Stand in Detroit, and the local Fox News station thought it was real. So there you go, fair and balanced. Eric?
Yeah, we had a lot of really great new teams at this race as well. Car number 1 was Excessive Nuts, which was not just a clever name, but also a description of the car when they got it. It was an Oldsmobile Cutlass G-body. You could dominate with that. And when they got it, they couldn't even roll the windows down because the door was completely full of nuts. They just ran it as it was with the Olds 307 in it.
This is an Oldsmobile 307. No shit.
Which blew up because it was full of nuts. But, you know, they went and got another one, tried to make it work, couldn't quite get it to go. But we really love seeing these crappy G-bodies. And with a 307, you're on track for an IOE with that.
Another new team, the Wrench of Friendship, with their Subaru Forester with a Lamb's beer can bolted to the top. We love stuff bolted to the top. Just, make sure it's really bolted, but do more of that.
GLRE Racing showed up with a real Shelby Omni that was a former SCCA car. And when we say former, we mean like 1990. And it had sat for about 30 years. They ran across the owner at a track day, and he was kind of just shaking the rust off it to sell it. Sold it to him for $300 with a catch. They had to take 30 years of spare parts with it for $3,000. Maybe a deal? I don't know. We told them it was going to blow up. It did not blow up. We were really impressed with that. They were very new and hadn't done pit stops ever anywhere, and they saw these people moving fuel cans around. They're like, man, we really need something to do that with. And they went into town and found a Dollar General, and they offered to buy a cart from the Dollar General. The clerk was like, I don't know, just take it and bring it back, I guess. So they took it and they ran it all weekend with fuel in it, and then they took it back like good citizens. That's hell sweet.
Isn't that one of those stories like that if it were about anything else in tech, we would not believe for a minute that they offered to buy it and the employee said, sure, just take it, and they took it back?
Yeah.
I think what you mean is they stole a shopping cart. That's what you mean.
Would our people do that?
Super hella sweet is Driver IQ. This is a team of high school kids, and we've said that before, but these were real high school kids. There was no parent, there was no mentor, there was no helicopter mom. I mean, it was just high school kids. They were just doing it. And they did it in 6 weeks. Well, they almost did it in 6 weeks. They actually showed up. They didn't quite have the cage finished or the kill switch, but they were able to get all that worked out. They were able to start the race. This giant Crown Vic. They got 14 laps. I mean, and then it blew up. But you know what? We've had lots of grown men on a team, and they can't even do that. So, hella sweet.
Speaking of high school students, the Detroit student racing team was back. For this race, they left on the shelf their Lexus ES250, and they brought back the Great Wall Motors Volex C20R, which is of course the first Chinese-built car ever to run in Lemons, and these are, as we have mentioned before, licensed built in Bulgaria.
Това е един много добър избор за всеки. Надявам се да се убедите сами в най-близкия автосалон на Great Wall.
Can I just interrupt and just say, like, they left their Lexus ES250 on the shelf to bring their Bulgarian license-built Chinese SUV? This is like an absolute scooteria is what Andy's got going on here. It's awesome.
I agree. And this fine Scuderia machine is basically a Toyota Yaris underneath all of the Chinese stampings. So what they did was they took that ridiculously high suspension for traveling over crappy Chinese roads, they put normal Yaris-sized suspension on it, and then it kind of just ran all weekend. And he put all of his high school students in charge of all of the hard parts of the weekend, which again is why it was doing well.
And then, but terrible and also kind of incredible, was the Saab high technology integration Fiero. This is a car run by a Saab guy. He got a ride in the Salty Thunder Fieros, which out toward Denver are really fabulously well, probably the best Fiero race cars ever made. Not that that's a high bar, but they really are. And he said, this car is great, and the only thing it's lacking is a Saab turbo motor. I don't know how anybody could think that, but that's what he thought. He's set to go do it. So here he is. He's starting to pack for the race. He's got a Saab 9.3 turbo-powered Fiero. He's going to dominate. Pulls out the dipstick, coated in water and problems. So what can he do? Gets to the track, says, I'm just going to buy an entire car when I get there, take the drivetrain, put it in this. It's going to be beautiful. That's what he did. Spun on the outlap. Another teammate backed the car into a barrier at great speed. Not flawless, but you know what? After that, car kind of ran. Well done, but terrible.
I should also add the team captain found this hella sweet Fiero jacket on eBay and scored it for me. It's a Fiero 2M4 jacket from the 1984 Pontiac Lifestyle catalog. Heroic Fix went to Not Real Professional and their aforementioned Mazda Protege. These guys won I Got Screwed last year at NCM when their engine blew up and they couldn't really get it back together. They took it to Barber. A few months later, it ran perfectly, and they decided that, obviously what we need to do is to put a supercharging kit from eBay Motors on it. The good decision-making part of this team is that it is a husband and wife who run this non-profit that helps people of little means afford car repairs they otherwise couldn't. That's really hella sweet. We appreciate that kind of thing. That's super cool. The bad part of the decision-making is the supercharging. It makes an obscene amount of boost. It creates an obscene amount of jealousy. It makes an obscene amount of noise.
Yeah, Yeah, so you would think that they would just run away, but in fact they didn't. What happened was, not very long into the race, 3 of the 4 pistons completely melted, and they were done for. Did they bring a spare motor? They did not. But they did have a brainwave, that turbo probe that we talked about. They had a spare motor. It's more or less the same motor. They went over there, literally with hands full of crumpled $20 bills, got the spare motor, reinstalled it in their car in the 3rd snowstorm of the weekend, by the way. While that was going on, 3 hours later, they were back on a track and they were ripping it up. Very heroic.
These guys also took home a free set of tires from Yokohama as the Road Mangler Cup winners. Again, here's how this works. Bring your car out a set of Yokohama tires. You get the chance to win a set of Yokohama tires at the end of the weekend. I Got Screwed went to the Napoleon Complex and their Mini Cooper. Now, these guys have finished second, I think, in 4 of the last 5 races in Class B. Famously at Pittsburgh last year, one of their teammates smashed the fuse box with his foot because it is mounted next to the clutch pedal for some godforsaken reason. This year, the exact same thing happened. One of the other teammates smashed the fuse box. This time they knew what was wrong immediately and fixed it, set to work, went back out on the track. They were running away with Class B with 90 minutes to go until the brakes completely let go and they finished second. Now, as it so happens, they were embracing this during BS inspection by wearing bridesmaids' dresses, so once again, they are bridesmaids and therefore screwed.
The special trophy was the Unintimidator Prize, which went to SMS Racing, another group of students, this time from Rochester Technical Institute. So you'd think they'd know better, but they didn't. They brought an S10. It was hella hoopty. They had a pretty good Dale Earnhardt theme. One of their drivers had a really good Dale Earnhardt affect. They were very sweet. They were nice guys. Car was completely half-assed. The theme was like a quarter-ass, but they had a great attitude, and that's exactly what we wanted to see.
Yeah, after the race, one of the team came up to me and they're like, man, I don't know about this S10. We're thinking about another car, but it might be too high performance for Lemons. Is a Lincoln LS okay for Lemons? Yes, it is.
Judge's choice went to the League of Legitimate Ukrainian Businessmen. It is a bit of a rebranding, and I think it's appropriate to the times. Now, these guys, they thought they were really pulling a fast one because they had this great YouTube theme and they were working a skit in inspection and they got away with it. The judges didn't even bother looking under their hood this time and they snuck their 2015 Subaru motor through without any penalty laps. And you know how that worked out for them? So the cheating was really its own appropriate reward. In this case, they struggled with this car. It didn't really run right. They were trying to overdrive it. They got a lot of black flags. They're all Yinzers. So we had to bring them in to do some Donnie Iris penalties. We said, okay, finally, you can go back out after all that. They said, yeah, we're not actually in such a hurry to do that. We all got together as friends from another song. Can we just perform that for you instead of going racing? And we said, of course.
Organizer's choice went to Cheesebolt Enterprises and their Ford Focus. Now, these guys just have a great attitude. After their first race or two, they rethemed after an unfortunate racing incident with an anti-track bullying Be Best theme. As the Be Best initiative has been phased out, as they may say, they decided to become a trophy sales service and alteration service for the paddock. They spent the entire weekend handing out dozens of trophies, and they had a label maker with them to make it specific to that exact moment. That was just so great. Some of them were very, very specific. Some of them were just labeled participation trophy, which is also excellent. Among the trophies they gave out were some to the staff, including one for the Best Awards Ceremony of 2022. Take that, Chris Rock. And they gave us some trophies to give out, including the Spirit of Be Best, which we gave to Hell Kitty, aka Car and Driver, aka All the Car and Driver People Are Gone, aka Mary Seelhorst. Like all good Lemons teams, they do have a backup car which they brought, and it is a Ford Tempo, and they let me drive it around the paddock a little bit for nostalgia's sake. They have huge plans for this car. I will not spoil them, but I will attest to their incredibleness. These guys are the spirit of Lemons in every sense. Very well done, Cheesebolt Enterprises.
The Halloween Meets Gasoline prize with the $1,000 check. We talked about all the also-rans, and they were all spectacular, but these guys, the Mercure space program, brought what else? A Mercure, and they just kind of nailed it absolutely everywhere. They had a great theme, they had great costumes, they had great stuff bolted securely to the car, they were working their theme all weekend long, they had a good BS inspection gag, they had a terrifying pit vehicle that they loaned us as a Judge-mobile, they had a special themed drink for the potluck, they even had space ice cream to distribute. We all ate a lot of space ice cream, and we were all hella sick. I don't know how the astronauts did it. I mean, they just really made it work. Super well executed, and the car was a Mercure, so of course it blew up almost immediately. They spent all their time doing what mattered. They got $1,000 in a trophy. Oh, and before we move on, let me just say they took half of the money, the $1,000, and they donated it to Lemons of Love, which is a charity for this event, and they saved the other half for the party at Ginger Man, which is going to be their next race. It just doesn't get any better.
Index of Affluency, our top prize went to Patapalemons and their Buick LeSabre. Now, what is Patapalemons? There is this guy, Pat, and he has an annual birthday party called Patapalooza. And basically all of his friends show up, they have a good time, they consume some beverages, they take a bunch of photos and have 4x6s printed of them next day so they can actually remember parts of it. Now, because of COVID, he was unable to host this party for a couple years. They decided to come back and do Patapalooza at a Lemons race with a Buick LeSabre. And they took all those 4x6 photos and they slapped them all over the car. It's kind of a hella sweet theme. The car was, as all Buicks that are still on the road are, from somebody's deceased relative. They put a cage in it, they brought it racing, it was hella butt slow, and it beat 35 teams. That is exactly how you show up and do Lemons, and by the way, they presented me with this hella sweet painting right here.
So I happen to take a little note of some of the high-performance racing cars that somebody's dead grandmother's General Motors sedan actually whipped the ass of. Let's see, it includes Mustangs, a Firebird, a Prelude, Dodge Charger with a Hemi, an MR2, Porsche 944, Subaru Impreza, BMW E36, BMW E30, Pontiac Solstice, Dodge Daytona Shelby X. Not really a surprise there. The list kind of goes on and on and on. That's why we love this car. That's why they got the IOE. And that, I think, is it, which means there's Lemons in a nutshell.
Little puppies. These are little puppies.